Hi, my name is Virginia Adeswino, and I'm the lead designer and owner of Denada, and this is Thoughts Over Breakfast. Hi, my name is Virginia Adeswino, and I'm the owner and designer of Denada, which is my knit line based here in Washington, D.C. We specialize in scarves, gloves, hats, shawls, and capes as well, all handmade in Peru, South America, which happens to be where my family's from. Welcome to my studio.
I metroed into DC to meet Virginia for breakfast at her work/living space at the 52 O Street Studios, and to hear the full story behind how Denada Design got started.
Virginia, thank you for meeting with me today. I really appreciate it and having breakfast with me.
Well,
Cheers.
coffee.
Yeah, coffee and some healthy fruit. So I really like your studio, and first of all, congratulations on everything you've done so far with Denada and all your success. And so today I really just want to talk about kind of like how you started. Now everybody knows about it and it's internationally sold and everything, but how did you start? I think that's the bigger question. How did you go from being a startup to having this space and doing everything you're doing now?
Well, it definitely took time. I started off after graduating from college. My original dream was to be an artist. I had this dream of living as an artist and having solo shows. But once I graduated from college, I realized that wasn't my true passion. And so I started a design company called Denada, and kind of combined my passion for the arts, for design, in addition to my passion for business. And from there, originally I started off with a handbag line, and it did really well. But again, I reached a point where I still didn't feel like it was my true passion. And so I started thinking, what do I really want to do? And I decided to go back to my roots, which was in college. I focused on fiber arts and did a thesis on conceptual art and mixed media, and decided to do a small capsule collection of knits, specifically scarves, and just kind of reinventing this sort of traditional style and making it something that would be a wonderful accent to any outfit, and also infusing the whole appreciation of handmade into it. And from there, people just loved the collection. I started selling online to different boutiques locally as well as internationally, and I guess the rest is history.
That's awesome. So looking back, it's obviously a great story. But what were some of the challenges kind of building that brand? I can't imagine it being very easy.
No, it wasn't easy. There's definitely a lot of challenges, and until this day, I still have a lot of challenges that I constantly am faced with. I think the first big challenge was finding time, and realizing that starting a business, starting a brand, does require a lot of dedication and does require a lot of sacrifice. So instead of hanging out with friends and family, I was in my studio working, or at the time, I was in my home because my office was in my home, and fulfilling orders and answering emails and reaching out to new stores, and all the money that I would make, obviously reinvested back into my business. So it did take a lot of sacrifice, but I feel like for any business person, you really have to realize that starting a business, it's going to take a lot of dedication and it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And I feel like if you love what you do, that sacrifice, that dedication doesn't feel like a burden, and actually you enjoy doing it.
And obviously there's a lot of work done on your part, and a lot of dedication and hard work. But what about, like, were there anybody else who helped you? Did you join any groups, or did your friends help you? What was that like?
I think family is a key. Definitely my now husband, from the very start, he supported my dreams and would help me. When I originally started off, I was actually also selling at a local community market called the Eastern Market in DC. And every Sunday he would wake up with me at 6 a.m. and help me set up for the market, bring my stuff there, set up, and help me sell, and then pack up and bring me home. He helped me all out with graphic design, for my logo, for the brands, and also for hand tags, and like promo items. And it was great having him because, a lot of times I'm always joking around, like, now that we're husband and wife, I'm like, we really work as a team. We're not really like husband and wife. We're like sort of like a team.
Yeah.
We support each other's dream, and that's definitely something that I love about him so much, is that he's very selfless. He's wants to help me and wants me to achieve my goal and help me in any way possible to do that. Like my parents, obviously, who helped me out a lot from the start, with all of our hand knits are handmade in Peru, and so obviously I have family in Peru that are very helpful, but my parents definitely helped me out a lot to make connections, to talk, kind of get me down there to like meet different artisans and to grow my business.
And so what was kind of the impetus for you to think about, well, I actually want to get my knits made in Peru, and why not elsewhere?
Well, when I started off with Denada, I started off with handbags. I didn't know exactly what direction I wanted to go with. I was young, but I had this dream that I wanted to do something with design and business. Then I ventured into knitwear because knits and textiles is something that I focused in college and was like something that I loved. So as I grew, kind of matured as a designer, I realized that with my brand, I want to tell a story. I want people to kind of connect with what my brand is about. And with my brand, it's about obviously infusing my appreciation for handmaids and also combining my aesthetics with, like, since I'm first generation here in the U.S., with the techniques that are used in Peru, which is where my family's from. I wanted to, when I reached a point where I can no longer create everything, kind of keep up with the demand, I decided to get everything handmade in Peru instead of another place. And the reason why is because, again, I have that connection with Peru. I grew up always traveling to Peru almost every year, and remember when I was a little kid just feeling like, wow, this place is amazing, and always being inspired by the arts, the culture, and I feel that having my things hand done in Peru, and bringing that inspiration into my design kind of tells my story.
It seems like you're a cornerstone of this community. How have you found a way to give back and kind of share your skills and your passion for art and fashion with others in this area?
Well, there's two projects I'm involved with where it's kind of giving back or contributing to the creative community. One is called DC Market, which is MEET, not MEAT. And that's a community market that's held at 1550 Street once a month, the first Saturday of every month from April through November. I and my husband manage and run the market. And our goal with the market, what it is that it's a community market where we showcase and support local businesses and small businesses, and provide them with a space where they can go ahead and sell and connect with the neighborhood. Not only do we do that, but we also bring in local bands, local DJs to kind of perform and kind of add music to the environment, or to the market itself. And then we also partner with local organizations where they provide some sort of educational activity where market goers can go and get something out of the market. And our goal is really to obviously support local small businesses, but just really bring the community together. As I said before, I started my business at Eastern Market, which is a well-known market in DC, and I've always found it such a great platform, a great opportunity for small businesses or even startups to kind of go and sell their goods, but also, most importantly, connect with the neighborhood. When you're starting off a business, I feel like where you're starting out, whatever city is, you should really connect with your community, and because that's where you're from. And so for me, when I was provided the opportunity to go ahead and run and manage this market, I definitely accepted the opportunity happily and wanted to really kind of contribute. I feel like being a small business owner in DC, there's so many great things about being in DC, but what I love about being a manager and running the market is actually being involved in other people's stories, not just my own story, but being able to be a part of their growth. The other project that I'm involved with is called Topaz and Arrow, and I started it with my good friend Morgan from Woodford West last year. And Topaz and Arrow is once a month DIY craft workshop, where we hold the workshops either in my studio, which is here, or at her studio, which is located at Monroe Street Art Market. And what we do is have like a DIY part class, part social event where people can come and do crafts, but not the sort of like, typical type of craft of like how to paint, but more sort of outside the box of, it could be anything dealing with, creating decor with air plants, or how to create a really cool hanging light fixture. So just thinking outside the box, something that could really add to your everyday lifestyle or personal style, or even if you're going to have a dinner party, something that you can create to kind of add to it. And I feel like the reason why Morgan and I started the Topaz and Arrow was it was just another creative outlet that we wanted to have, where it's kind of adding to the creative community. We felt like what we were doing in our own personal lives was great, but there was something missing in the creative community where we wanted to kind of add, our little, add something to it from us.
Let's take it back to UMD. The UMD days. Do you miss it? Like what were you like as a college student back in college?
Oh, I loved college.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had University of Maryland was great. I really had a good time there. That's where I met my husband. He was a TA. He was my TA in sculpture class, which I'm probably going to try that. Yeah. He was my TA. That's where I met a lot of my great friends, really, really good friends, and that's where I kind of figured out exactly, sort of what I wanted to do in my life, I felt like I was actually really lucky to get into the CFIS program for the fine arts, and it was I felt like it was great for me as an artist, as a designer, because I really were able to connect with the professors and have my own studio to work. And pretty much I worked 24/7 in that studio, and it was a lot of fun, and it definitely helped in the growth of my creativity. I remember in college at University of Maryland, my teachers used to tell me that, being an artist is not just being creative, you have to be a business person too, if you want to thrive, if you want to live off of your art. So coming into DC, from the University of Maryland, I met with a lot of artists at first, because I graduated with this idea of I wanted to be an artist. So I definitely would encounter a lot of individuals who were doing both art and business. And then for later on, as I was getting into fashion, I definitely met a lot of people, individuals who combined their appreciation for design with business.
And so you kind of seem like you have a lot of background in the arts and then kind of venturing into fashion. What about the business side? How did you learn that?
Oh my God. That's definitely self-taught.
Yeah.
For the most part. Originally, from the start, I started off just, teaching myself, reading books, researching online. And then once my business was growing, then obviously I got professional help, like mentorships, and kind of meeting up with friends of mine, reaching out to friends of mine who were in marketing, who had a job in accounting, and being like, hey, can I can we go out for coffee and can I pick your brain, ask you some questions?
What advice would you give for students who are either thinking about starting any kind of business right now in college, or specifically a fashion business, maybe trying to commercialize their art? What would you say to them?
I think for, well, specifically for fashion, I think you can also kind of go into any other businesses that people want to start. I think for fashion, the advice I would give is obviously try to get a job, or it's hard in DC because there's not a lot of fashion positions. So if there are fashion brands, which there are plenty, I would reach out to them and see about interning with them to get your foot in the door and kind of see what happens behind closed doors and kind of get a better perspective as to how a small brand or a brand in DC is managed and how it's run. From there, obviously, hopefully getting like a job in the fashion design, or somehow related. It could be PR communications or merchandising, or getting a retail job to get more experience on like how stores run, and kind of building that experience. And whether you have it full-time or part-time, then on the side, start building your brand. Start taking like classes on how to start a business, or start meeting up with, DC has a lot of great resources for starting a small business. So start reaching out, using those resources, educating yourself. And as you're building your brand, and as you're creating a great, strong infrastructure, and that brand is like, have reached a point where it's taking up all your time and making, you can actually live off of it, then obviously do it full time. A lot of times I see students who are very ambitious, and I think that's great, but they think that they can go ahead and start a business and do it full time. Maybe, obviously you can if you have the right investment, but at the start it's really hard to do it, especially building like a fashion brand, because it takes a lot to kind of build your fashion brand. One, there's manufacturing, figuring out, your designs, patterns, who's going to manufacture it, the branding of it, the packaging of it, and then reaching out to stores, who's selling it. Are you just going to sell it online, or other stores going to sell it? So how do you approach the stores, creating catalogs, creating line sheets? That's why I think the best way, for me at least, it's like I like to kind of take steps. I don't want to rush it too much, because if I rush it, then I feel like I'm going to overlook all the important details. So for me, it's like I took the time to kind of look at every single detail and educate myself. And once my brand was set to go and I knew that I could it was walking by itself, then I was doing it full time.
And what is like your creative process? How do you think of different types of knits that you want to make, or does it come to you? Do you kind of sit down and think about it? How does that work for you?
It can come to me, and then obviously I can sit down and think about it. For me, my design process it's a very personal thing. Obviously I feel like any designer is probably a very personal process for them as well. For me, it's like I really have to sit down. I have a lot of distractions, good distractions obviously in my life, my beautiful family, and then the other creative projects that I'm working with. So for me to actual design, I have to separate a time slot to sit down, to think, or to research, to start sketching, get my ideas. And then from there, it's like, all right, let's go ahead and experiment, using my knitting machine or knitting or whatnot. And then slowly formulating these designs and these patterns. And a lot of times how it works for me, it's like creating one style, and then from that style it kind of brings up, I'm like, oh, well, I like the shape of it, I like the stitch, but what if I change this? And then it then I'll create another design, which tends to be our second design. And it's like a domino effect. It just kind of creates in it until I reach a point where I'm like, all right, I think I'm done. Because I feel like with any artist, you never feel like you're truly done, you know? Mm-hmm. There's more, and that's why there's another collection next year,
Yeah.
So that's how my creative process, my design process generally works.
Cool. And especially in fashion, you know, there's so many people out there who are trying to copy, you know, if you validated a cool style or knitwear from Peru, there are always people who are kind of jumping on the bandwagon, trying to copy your brand and outsell you. How have you managed to mitigate that kind of effect?
No matter what, it's going to happen. You can't, they're trying to copyright fashion. You really, unless it's like, you know, imagery, you really can't copyright it. Because, I mean, someone can create like a style, one of those styles, and then like do a little edit on it, and then it's their style. You know, it's their design. So for me, I'm kind of like, if I see something and I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like my collection from last year, like that design, I don't let it bother me. I'm like, all right, that's cool, and just kind of move forward. For me, it's like all about like moving forward, thinking forward, and thinking about creating a next design, you know, and not thinking about what's behind me, but what's in front of me.
So you mentioned a lot about your husband Kelly and your son, and it seems like you're very family-centered. How do you manage that?
Kelly and I are like a team. We work together. And that's, before we got married, that's how we were working out our relationship. And when we got married and had our son, it's the same sort of mentality that we have, is that we have to support each other and work together. He's an artist, he's a full-time artist. I'm a designer artist, full-time. So for us, working full-time, you know, we have to work together so that we can make our family work. And so with that mentality, it helps with balance in life. For me personally, as a mother and a business owner that manages different businesses, it is truly like a struggle and a challenge, because as a mother, not to say anything against my husband and, you know, fathers and their bonds with their sons, but as a mother, you know, I have a very strong bond with my son, and if I could, I would spend all day with my son, you know. But I love what I do, and I love that I am a designer, and that's part of my identity. When I became a mother, I didn't lose that part of who I am. Being a mother added to my identity. And I want to be able to, so I work really hard and I hustle really hard to balance my life so that I can be a really good example to my son and show him that, you know what, you can do whatever you want in life. If you want to own your own business, be a lawyer, be an artist, be a doctor, you can do it, and you can have a family. And I want you to be able to look at your mom and see that, and your daddy, and see that they were able to do it, as long as you're able to communicate and work together as a family. I feel like for any woman who has that interest, that strong interest of starting a business of their own, and knowing that they want a family also, to realize that there's no like instruction, like any manual that can tell you how you can do it all. Every life is different, you know. Everyone's, their own personal life is going to be different from someone else. Like my life is not the same as someone else, you know. But I guess I would love for other women to realize, you know, you're trying to create your own path. So if you know that you want to own your own business and you want to be a mother, then do it. You know, you just have to realize that it's going to take a lot of work. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. That's how it is. If it was easy, then everyone would do it. You know, but that's why it's something that, you know, it's a challenge. But I feel like once you reach that point and you're able to achieve those goals, it's the most satisfying experience ever.
Thank you for sitting down and having breakfast with me. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the coffee.
Absolutely.
And
the fruit.
Yeah, and the fruit. And I really enjoy your studio too, so I'm going to look out for your fall collection. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.